Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to the presentation of business results of Gorenje Group for the third quarter of 2015 and their new strategic plan for the period 2016 to 2020. We will turn our attention to these topics in a minute, but before we do, please allow me a few notes on the course of this webcast. My name is Simon Masnak, I'm an Executive Director of Alta Group and I will guide you to today's event. Gorenje will be presented by their CEO, Mr. Franjo Bobinac, and CFO, Mr. Peter Groznik. Their presentation will take about 30 minutes, followed by 10 minutes reserved for Q&A. If you have any questions, you can pose them during or after presentation via chat box located on the right side of your screens. Please address your questions to organizer in the chat box if you prefer that other participants will not see your identity. You can also use this box for any questions to our technical support team. Mr. Bobinac, please.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining this very webcast. Together with Peter, our CFO, we are glad to share some insights of performance of this year to you and especially to talk to you about the future of Gorenje. First of all, the Q3 of 2015, this was a very strong sales period for us. We managed to do somewhere around 370 million euro turnover. This is much stronger than the first and the second quarter of this year. Especially we were strong in sales outside Europe, where we increased our market shares. And also in selling premium and innovative appliances, we were very successful. Here, I think especially the brand names Attack and Asco, these are also the part of the group. We improved our average prices on different markets, also in Western Europe, but also in other Central and Eastern European markets. And we managed to come to the net result of minus 2.5 million euro in the third quarter. On the other side, I need to emphasize that Gorenje would have recorded a positive net result if I count the negative effects of lower sales in currency translation differences, especially in Russia, and also some negative effect from US dollar appreciation relative to euro. The next slide, I would like to show you that with regard to the 9 months results, Gorenje is achieving 875 million euro in the first 9 months of this year. This is slightly less than the same period last year, but it is in line with the budgeted dynamics of this year. It's important to be mentioned that Panasonic business is going very well. This year we plan to make with them more than 10 million euro of business and to be doubled next year. Also, Asco and Attack brand were very strong in the whole period of 9 months. On the other side, in a very mature industry like ours, it's very important to manage costs of labor, material and services. Through cost optimization and other issues, we managed to produce operating profit in amount of 16.3 million euro in the first 9 months of this year. EBITDA generated in amount of 50.8 million euro. Net result was negative in the first 9 months in the level of 9.4 million euro loss. But on the other side, again, without the negative impacts of Russia and currency translation differences, especially because of negative ruble, Gorenje would have recorded a positive net result also in this first 9 months period. Higher seasonal debt to some extent, but we improved maturity profile in the first 9 months of this year. Coming back to Russia, I would like to emphasize that the Russian market declined in the first 9 months of this year for approximately 35%. On the other side, also Gorenje sales in Russia declined by 26 million euro, especially in the first half of this year. As already mentioned, volatility of the exchange rate between ruble and euro was extremely strong and affected our net result significantly. Because there was a certain time lag between possible price adjustment on the markets with regard to the depreciation and appreciation of Russian rubles. And on the other side, also margin shortfall in Russia. Altogether, it compared to almost, let's say, 9 million negative impact from the Russian business on the 9 months results of the Gorenje Group this year. Let me go now to the key financial indicators, table number 5. I would like to emphasize again that group revenue in Q3 was very strong. It was much stronger than the first quarter of this year, for around 18.5%. It was also for 9.5% higher than Q2 this year. But also with regard to the same period of last year, quarter 3 this year was for around 2.3% higher than last year. I don't think it is necessary to go now into all the details of the numbers and facts that you know. That's why I will skip this, and I would like to mention just a couple of markets where our performance was very strong, and on the other side to mention also those markets where we were dropping in sales. Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, Slovenia, Macedonia, Montenegro, but also Bulgaria, Romania, and Benelux, especially Netherlands, were strong markets for us in the first 9 months of this year. On the other side, even stronger were the markets outside Europe, especially Australia and North America as well. On the other side, we dropped in sales in Ukraine and Scandinavia this year, slightly also in Great Britain and Greece. It is very important for us that on the other side, we increased the average price of our appliances in the whole Europe, especially due to more sales of innovative and premium appliances. It shows also on the table number 7 that the share of innovative and premium appliances increased significantly. Page number 8 is showing you that, yes, because of negative foreign exchange differences, Gorenje, especially in the eastern part of Europe, we lost a kind of sales of around 28 million euro. Here you can see also the differences between actual growth and the organic growth. It comes almost on the level of 8% altogether. In the Eastern Europe, you can see here that actual growth was minus 4.6%, but the real organic growth without the influences of foreign exchanges is plus 3.3%. Investment activities were developed mainly on the level of new products, supporting the growth in premium and innovative segment. On the other side, we were very consistent with what we agreed at the beginning of the year, and this is to adjust capex to actual sales. That's why in Q3 our investments were on the level of around 16 million euro only. It was lower than budgeted, but we are coming back a little bit with stronger capex in the last quarter of this year. But again, the whole year capital expenditure is adjusted to the level of the sales. Development and new products it's very important, and not important only for this year, but also for mid and long-term development of the Gorenje Group. I'm glad to inform you that there were some key development achievements made this year, like new generation of built-in appliances under the brand name Gorenje, then some new washing machines and launching of new collection of Magna premium cooking appliances. I'm very glad also to mention that it was a huge success, the launching of Gorenje by Stark, designed line launched at the IFA trade show fair in Berlin at the beginning of September. And the whole year 2015, there is a higher investment into development cost, accounting for around 2.8% of total group revenue. So even if the year is difficult, Gorenje needs to invest in the right product, and especially in premium, innovative ones. Number of employees were pretty much stable this year with regard to the previous period. To some extent, we were increasing in the last couple of months the number of employees, especially in the production. Right now, our flexible labor part is around 500 people that work in the production, because we employed them, but just for the limited period, and we are flexible with this part of the labor. I'm passing now the floor to my colleague Peter, who will lead you through some financial indicators and data for the first 9 months of this year. Please, Peter.
Yes. Hello. On this slide, you can see the split of our revenues between home and portfolio. Home is where our core, our appliances, and portfolio are all of the non-core activities. We see the drop as projected for home. For portfolio, this is more a lot of these businesses have more of a one-time nature. For example, medical equipment or tool making. So you get big orders sometimes in one quarter, sometimes in the other quarter. So I wouldn't read too much into this. Maybe just a word here in the portfolio segment. As you know, we signed these SPA selling agreements for 2 of our companies, Gorenje, Surovina, and Publicus, in July. The closing is expected, the last date for that is Q1 of next year, and everything is going according to the schedule. When exactly it will be closed, we don't know, either at the end of this year or early next year. It's up also to the speed of our courts. On this slide, you can see the evolution of our earnings before interest and taxes. The biggest drop, the biggest explanation for the drop is contribution margin at the level of cost of goods and materials sold. The biggest impacts, the impact on margins from both Russian ruble and American dollar. The biggest plus, we are focusing on optimizing all of our costs. So you can see that we saved almost 4 million euros in cost of services. EBITDA has a similar pattern. This year it is, after 9 months, lower by 13 million euros, and the explanation was provided before. Especially we were hit in the margins in Russia, and also higher purchasing cost, and also wherever we sell in American dollars. That also had some impact. I think one of the success stories of our kind of restructuring of the last couple of years is frequently analysts or portfolio managers would point to our high investment in net working capital. Here you can see that how we are lowering it. It doesn't happen, the turnaround and the change doesn't happen overnight, but we have a very clear policy and goal and focus on reducing our investment in net working capital. You can see that this year it stands at the end of September at 227. 3 years ago, it was more than 300 million euros. So, and the trend should continue in the future as well. Of course, we will never be as efficient as some of the biggest peers in the group. However, the nature of our business and operations is also different, but we know that there is more room and more things we can do in this area. Financial performance follows a similar pattern. You can also see our focus on deleveraging. Every year in the last 3 years, we reduced our gross and net debt. This year, it stands after first 9 months at approximately the same level as last year. This is partly due to the worse operating performance, also partly due of the adjustment we made in our hedge accounting policy, where some of the unrealized forwards are counted as liabilities. But essentially the same. I think the important thing here is that by the end of the year, we again focus to deleverage, to reduce both of our gross and net debt. And also you can see that the maturity profile of our company is now the best in the last 3 years as well. most of our liabilities, 63-64%, are long-term, and with ongoing operations and loan agreements that we are about to sign pretty soon, this should improve further. Forecast by the end of the year, of course, the year has not ended yet, and it has been a volatile year, but as we stand today and what we see today, we should see further sales growth in Q4. ASCO and outside of Europe should continue to perform relatively well. Sales of small domestic appliances should be comparable to last year, and we are focusing on our premium appliance segments. For example, this Star line that our president mentioned before is launching throughout Europe as we speak, essentially. And especially we mentioned the Netherlands and Attack brand, they are also going very strongly. So the planned revenue should be kind of achieved. We are planning, of course, the most important question that financial institutions ask is the achieved level of EBITDA. If everything goes according to how we see the year end, we should achieve 80 million euros. Of course, the exchange rate fluctuations are the biggest risk factor for achieving this. But as you know, if we assume that nothing dramatic will happen, we should achieve this result. Every quarter we achieve, every last quarter we have high positive free cash flows, and those are directed to reducing our debt. And we should come under the net debt to EBITDA under 4. The plan is 3.9 and something. This is from my side. I'm turning the word now again to our president, who will lead you through our strategic plan.
Okay. About the strategic plan for the Gorenje Group for the next period, let me make a kind of bridge between, let's say, this year's performance and the future. As a kind of answer on this dependency on Russia and Eastern Europe, Gorenje started to think about the new strategy and the adjustments of some directions, and to go even stronger on the global markets and stronger on the premium and innovative products. So in a way, we are, let's say, very, very convinced that this is the right strategy that will allow us to be even more global and more important player also in premium segments like we were in the past. A couple of, let's say, basement we already made in the last couple of years. That's why I would lead you now through a couple of slides with regard to our strategic plan till 2020. First of all, the question, why a new strategic plan? Environment is changing, especially in Eastern Europe, especially Russia and Ukraine, but also in Asia. There is certain instability and unpredictability, but on the other side also Gorenje Group is changing. Gorenje is focusing more and more to our core business. We are divesting ecology, but on the other side also we wanted to provide you, to investors and to financial institutions, longer-term development perspective of the whole Gorenje Group. So these are the main three reasons why after 2 years we are changing the strategy for the Gorenje Group. Gorenje Group grows globally. This is a kind of message or a working title for all of us that we started to think about new strategy 6 months ago from April this year till now. We managed to produce a lot of different discussions and papers and analysis in order to prepare for the new strategy 2020. It is based on profitable growth and it is based on the global presence of the Gorenje Group. First of all, let me summarize just a little bit for the last couple of years back. From 2009 until today, Gorenje Group revenue growth was based on the core segment home. In 2009, our total turnover of the home business was less than 900 million euro. And then we stabilized our sales of the home division somewhere on the level of 1.0708 billion euro. So the revenue now is quite stable, and as well as EBITDA is being stabilized on the level between 80 to 85 million euro, with also a kind of stable EBITDA margin in the last 5 years. On the other side, in the same period of the last 5 years, Gorenje Group has succeeded in reducing the gross debt by more than 144 million euro. That's very important, and one of the, let's say, top 3 levers where we can base also our future. So much lower debt today. We have today premium appliances, and we have also restructured production facilities like we did in the last couple of years. The next slide is showing you the structure of different brand names of the Gorenje Group. And Asco, for example, as being our top premium line, representing in volume, in pieces, just 4.4% today, but already today representing in value 10% of our total business. Here you can see that the average price of Asco is namely more than 2 times higher than the average price of the Gorenje Group. That's why Gorenje is going not only more and more globally, but more and more to premium appliances, Asco, Attack, some special design line like Gorenje by Stark and so on. Our Gorenje house, composed of vision and mission and corporate values, is a kind of logical development of the past, where we put the biggest emphasis on the vision, how to become the most design-driven innovator of home appliances in the world. So we are keeping this vision also for the future. In corporate values, we are counting on 3 main corporate values, like responsibility to all the stakeholders, innovation, and also entrepreneurship. Our business model, surrounded with a culture, it's all how we behave, what are the values and the norms we share, is based on the operational excellences that we'd like to continue, and with the main objective for the company like Gorenje, and this is creating value for all the stakeholders. Of course, Gorenje is also building for the future also on some key competencies like being international, strong R&D, counting on people and industrial know-how for a while, own production mainly based in Europe, but also some competitive advantages like vast brand and product portfolio, very strong in design. We have certain scale and flexibility. That means we can have this economy of scale to be productive and strong, but on the other side, we are also small enough to be quicker and more flexible than some of the mastodons of our industry. On the other side, Gorenje, by having now dishwashers production as well, is clearly full product assortment company. Strategic directions for the futures are: we are going to focus even more on home appliances. Differentiation through design and innovation are our key differentiation elements. We are going more and more globally, and we are open for strategic alliances, not only with Panasonic, but also with some other key industrial partners with whom we are exchanging our products. This is again the Gorenje house with some top facts and figures for the period till 2020. Gorenje is planning to achieve the revenue of 1.56 billion euro in 2020 with EBITDA margin of 9% on that year. Free cash flow every year should be positive, strongly positive. We are planning to come to the level of net financial debt to EBITDA lower than 3 from 2018 on, and somewhere around 2.5 in year 2019 and 2020. More than 30% of our business are going to represent innovative and premium segments, and we will double our business outside Europe, especially in Asia, Middle East, Latin America, United States, but also in Australia. ASCO business will double as well, from 100 million euro today to more than 200 million euro turnover in 2020. And more than 92% is going to be presented in core segments of the Gorenje Group. Some other pillars are explained here in this slide 28, where we count on people, of course, on our culture. We know that digital world is extremely important, and we understand it not only as a threat, but as an extremely big opportunity for the Gorenje Group, because even today Gorenje is much stronger on the web sales than on the classical retail sales today, if I compare our performance with some peers. All the other elements have already been explained before. That's why I'm passing now to the slide number 29, just showing again how the development of revenue is going to happen step by step, year by year. And in 2016, we are planning the group revenue of close to 1.2 billion euro. Here I need to mention that all those revenues are excluding divested ecology, and we are not showing this figure now anymore. Next slide is showing you how we are growing outside Europe. And one slide again, ASCO revenue more than 2006 million euro in 2020. Even today, ASCO is very strong in Australia and United States of America. In Asia, there are very good development of this business. I need to explain you why this is possible, this ASCO development, because when we acquired ASCO a couple of years ago, it was just washing machine, dishwasher, and dryer being the part of its product portfolio. Nowadays, ASCO brand is full assortment. That means also our premium cooking appliances and premium cooling appliances. That's why a huge potential, especially in our developed distribution in Australia, but also in some other markets in Asia. The next slide is showing you that ASCO being planned this year on the level of 10% in value will grow on the level of 14% in the structure till 2020. If we add to this ATAC part with more than 6% of the total value in 2020, it means that together with some design lines, these are all the premium segments that are going to be doubled also in this period of 5 years. I'm finishing this presentation just with a couple of slides showing you R&D competence centers of the Gorenje Group. Even though the headquarters of Gorenje is, of course, in Slovenia, we are working hand in hand with some center of excellences in Duiven, Netherlands for cooking appliances. In Sweden, in Lidköping, there is a center for dishwashers and for some freestanding cooking appliances in Mora Moravia in the Czech Republic. On the other side, production locations of home appliances are now set up in 3 countries mainly. Slovenia representing a little bit less than 60%. The second most important country is Serbia, and the third one is the Czech Republic. In 2014 and 13, we restructured dramatically our production facilities, and this is one of the very, very more important pillars of the Gorenje growth for the next couple of years. Nowadays, those production facilities are stabilized and producing premium appliances in different countries, but based on different product categories. This slide is just showing you that Gorenje is not just Europe. More and more, Gorenje is also Asia, Latin America, United States, it's Australia. Just recently, we opened companies in Chile, in Almaty, but we have quite for a while now the companies already in Shanghai and in Dubai, but also in the United States of America. So our network of companies abroad is stronger and stronger, mainly outside Europe. Gorenje Group brand portfolio is being based on two global brands of the Gorenje Group, ASCO and Gorenje. ASCO being the premium brand of the Gorenje Group, and Gorenje playing the important role of the meat and meat plus segment. All the other brands are the local brands, but covering different segments of their markets, like ATAC, the premium one, and Pilgrim, also meat platform like Gorenje. All the others are the local jewels on the lower part of the market.
I would like to say that Ms. Jožica Turk joined us also. She is Executive Director of Risk Management Department. And with relation to that, the strategy that was presented by our President, it has been very thoroughly prepared. Every assumption checked and rechecked. The risks were carefully analyzed and presented. Most of the strategic risks are, of course, very important for us. The growth that, some people may say, look, it's 6%. How can you say that you will grow 6% annually on average? We took into consideration the global forecast for our industry, which is around 4% for the next 5 years. However, we are a smaller company. We are not presented on all continents. So actually, we are supposed and we should grow faster than the biggest competitor in this industry. We prepared also different scenarios. We shared with you only the kind of the base case scenario. Of course, things can go a lot better, hopefully, but also a lot worse. And we are prepared for all of those situations as well. And now we will gladly take your questions. You can also ask a question for Jožica Turk.
Thank you for interesting presentation. We have received some questions during the presentation itself. So first few questions focus on the cost side of your business. So first one is, has the management board prepared any new cost-cutting measures in response to current market conditions? And the next two are more focusing on the labor costs themselves. So maybe you can comment on these questions first, please.
The cost cutting is actually a constant topic in our company. Like we showed this year, we, for example, reduced our cost of services by almost 4 million euros. With regards to the labor cost, one thing that we are becoming a much more flexible company. In spite of the relatively rigid labor laws in Slovenia, where most of our workforce is presently located, we are hiring more and more people on a contractual basis. So whenever the orders are low, we send them home temporarily, like we did this spring. We rehire when the orders are better. So I think the rough number is that almost 5% or even a little bit more of our labor force is flexible, has a flexible nature. And we are adjusting the cost according to the needs of our company.
Let me add to this a little bit about the labor cost. Given that we are present in 3 different countries, it gives us also a chance on the mid and long term to move it smoothly also more to Serbia, where the labor cost is 3 times less than in Slovenia, and also to balance with the Czech production. Of course, we can go step by step. To some extent, some of the additional investments are going to be needed, but still we have some flexibility in producing more appliances, for example, in Serbia, without some specific and huge investments, and to be more flexible in this regard. What we are planning as a new structure of, let's say, production facilities within the next 5 years is that Serbia will grow in the structure, Serbian locations. Slovenia will be a little bit less. Then the Czech Republic pretty much stable. Slovenia less in pieces, but more in value, because we are keeping here in Slovenia only or specifically those products with higher added value, like built-in cooking appliances, like premium dishwashers and premium washing machines and so on. But basic refrigerators, for example, or cookers are going to be produced outside Slovenia.
The next line of questioning is regarding your current market situation. Why a decrease on West European markets in first 9 months of 2015? Is it due to volume decrease or price deterioration? Do you see any signs of improvement in last quarter of 2015? And connected with this is the next question, whether your assumptions or whether your plans for 2015 on revenue, CBDA, and net income still stand.
Okay, first of all, let me say something about Western Europe. Let's say we were trying to increase the average price mainly in Germany, and we achieved it. So it was more than 5% average price increase in Germany in the first half of the year. But on the other side, because of that, Gorenje Group lost some market share. That's one of the reasons. But we didn't want to play the game, very competitive game of some basic products that we didn't want to accept those businesses. That's Germany. But we are picking up the market shares, and we are going to come very, very close to the market share we used to have last year. At the beginning of the year, it was not so. The second, let's say, worse situation was also in Scandinavia, where we have had some problems, and we are changing the business model because the competition is changing there, and also negotiation power with our retailers I changed as well. The consolidation of retailers brought us to the position that we were also slightly losing some market share, but we are coming back on track, and the situation in both Western European countries like Germany, but also Denmark and the rest of Scandinavia, it's now better than it used to be at the beginning of the year. So till the end of the year, altogether, Eastern, Western, and overseas, Gorenje is planning to achieve the budgeted goals of sales.
Just maybe about other projections, gross and net debt should come down as we planned. Of course, the trickiest is EBITDA. We announced the number 80 million euros. This number will be achieved, of course, if everything will go according to the plan, meaning no big negative surprises. Of course, the year has not ended yet. Life always brings some surprises, sometimes negative, sometimes positive. So yes, we are standing by the number, but we are also aware of the potential risks.
There was one follow-up question with a very specific question, with the more specific numbers in mind regarding your full year results. So the attendee asked that given the 9 months performance, that would mean that in fourth quarter EBITDA would be about 30 million euros, which would be the highest EBITDA you achieved since fourth quarter of 2012. And he's asking, can you please elaborate on your assumptions behind that, including orders and margins?
Okay, it would be, yes, 29 point something million euro at the fourth quarter of EBITDA. It's by far the biggest, but it is not impossible. That's why we are fighting on all the levels to achieve it. The level of sales is extremely high in October, November, and I can tell you just this, that based on the order book November, we can still really count on this EBITDA of 29 million euro on the last quarter. It is true that order book for December is not fulfilled yet, so it will be depending on December, but we do believe that the strong sale in December can be achievable, and if we can manage the right structure, like it happened in September, October, and November this year, And about structure here, I mean the right portfolio of products, but also of markets. It is still achievable. It's not easy to be achieved, but it is achievable. That's why we are putting it as a target. Still, we can treat it as a kind of realistic target, even though it's not easy to be achieved.
Next is the question on your production facilities. Do you plan to grow on premium, meaning new investments in Slovenia plant or outside Slovenia? Since at the presentation you pointed out that you're presenting premium segments just in Slovenia, or will you restructure the production to free capacities in Slovenia?
Slovenia in the future we represent in pieces, in volume, a little bit less than it's presenting today. But those products that are going to be produced at this location will be much more valuable. More value will come out of it. Like, for example, Gorenje is now developing the entirely new generation of dishwashers, and this will more than double the actual production of dishwashers. And that's why we are going to move some basic refrigerators again to Serbia. And this is a kind of game that we will play also in the future. We will bring to Slovenia some additional hobs, built-in appliances, especially the cooking ones. And we will leave to the Czech production, for example, some freestanding cookers. So those three locations, Slovenia, Serbia, and the Czech Republic, are going to be more and more specialized by product categories. And it is true that it is quite obvious that the majority of ASCO and ATAC products coming out of the Gorenje factories are going to be produced in Slovenia and not in the Czech Republic and in Serbia.
Next question on your new strategy. Can you elaborate on your CapEx plan for 2016 to 2020? How much R&D in percentage of sales? How much capacity upgrades and how much new locations and where?
I will start and then I would ask Peter to complete me if necessary. First of all, of course, growing, it means also growing in R&D and growing in production and so on. What is good in this strategic plan is that to some extent we still have some spare capacities. Capacity utilization of the Gorenje factories for the time being is not 100%. It's never 100%, but we still have some place, not in all factories, not in all production lines, but in some we have. But to some extent, of course, we need to develop some new lines, but especially new product development will be extremely important part of the CapEx. At least 40 to 50% of overall CapEx is going to be just for new products. And also this year, even though it was and it is a difficult year, Gorenje is growing the part of R&D inside of the turnover, and this part will grow even further within the next couple of years, up to 3% of the total turnover. On the other side, also marketing costs that are for the time being somewhere around 2.5% of total turnover will grow step by step within the next couple of years on the level of 3% of the total turnover. That means strong R&D, strong marketing with clearly defined marketing action, with strong people behind all this, and this means also a good basis for achievement of the strategic plan.
Maybe just on the CapEx numbers, they will be roughly in line with our depreciation amount. Maybe as a few, the strategic plan is based on actually very concrete roadmap of products that we plan to launch within the next couple of years. So the CapEx is also very precise. Some years will be a little bit above depreciation amount, but I think it's safe to project roughly in line with our depreciation.
Thank you. We have still several questions to answer. I would just give a note to all of our listeners. If you have any questions, please pose them now, as we will respond only to 4 more questions due to the lack of time. So sticking with the questions regarding your new strategy, are you planning to increase the cooperation with Panasonic, also from share structure point of view?
With pleasure, I'm answering the first part of the question, of course, because it is connected with us, Gorenje, directly. And I'm glad to inform you that the business development with the corporation Panasonic is going very well. We started 3 years ago. It was clearly nothing at the beginning. Last year, we made 5 million euro business together with them, let's say producing for them, under the brand name of Panasonic, and this year 10 million, and next year again we will double the turnover for the Panasonic group. Our objectives are much stronger, and as we announced already when we signed the strategic agreement with Panasonic, it will go much higher, or let's say beyond 80 million euro than we projected on that time. I can assure you that our plans are much stronger, and let's say the teams are working very well together. We are learning from each other. We are learning from Panasonic as far as, let's say, some specific issues, how to make our production even leaner, let's say complexity management, supply chain, and these kind of things. But on the other side, of course, Panasonic is counting on Gorenje as far as knowing the European consumer much better. Panasonic appreciates our, let's say, level of the production, R&D competences, but also design and the management team. We are very optimistic with regard to this further development of strategic partnership. Let's say the second part of the question, it's more the question for Panasonic, not for the Gorenje Group at this time.
We will wrap up this Q&A session with 2 questions on the financials of Gorenje. First one is, it is obvious that you are exposed to currency risk alongside with forward contracts and natural hedge. Do you consider other instruments to hedge currency risk?
Actually, not. We have a strict risk management and foreign currency policy, which means all of those currencies that make sense to hedge, we do hedge. And when I say that, it means that costs are reasonable. For some currencies, that's simply not the case. Ukrainian hryvnia, there is no reasonable hedging alternative. But for most of the global currencies, it is. So we have a strict policy, meaning that we never hedge 100%, but we always hedge more than 50%. Depending on the importance of the currency, we go up to 80%. We hedge on a rolling basis. And forwards, I believe, are appropriate instruments. And of course, as much of natural hedging as possible. At the moment, we are not using options or things like that.
Let me add just a small comment with regard to the natural hedge. Of course, it would be beautiful if we could have bought much more in Russia to have this natural hedge with ruble, but unfortunately the level of industry, especially talking about the components, is not high enough. But we are trying to buy more components, more raw materials, but it's really a kind of process to develop those suppliers to the level that are acceptable for our production. It's a process. We are changing this, and in the future I can see much more natural hedge also with regard to ruble, not 100%, but much more than it is the fact today.
Thank you. Next question is if you can elaborate on the effect on your profitability and indebtedness that will have the sale of ecology business that you mentioned today.
Everything has been published. In July and August, we published the details of the two SPAs that we signed. One is with Elemental Group from Poland for 70% of our Gorenje Surovina. The enterprise value of that is the enterprise value of this transaction. If it was 100%, it's 29 million euros. So now it's initially 70%. For the remaining part, we will see what the future will bring. We still intend to exit that. And for Publicus, that was announced around 6 million euros. So the total enterprise value from those two transactions is 35 million euros. The third piece, the third pillar of this division, it's hazardous waste. Here the process has not finished yet. We are still negotiating, but we will bring it to some sort of conclusion, hopefully by the end of this year. Either we will divest or remain in ownership for the foreseeable future and manage those two companies. Yeah, so the impact on the debt, of course, it's the entire amount, it's the enterprise value. Some of the debt that companies had will go out immediately on closing, and of course the proceeds for the equity will also be used to strengthen our balance sheet.
And the last question on today's webcast is a question related to working capital. Can you elaborate on your targeted improvements in working capital requirements, days of inventory? What is the target, especially in light of expansion in overseas markets in coming years?
We actually don't publish exact numbers on the days of inventories, but you can see from our presentation a clear trend, clear improvement in our management. And actually every year for the next business plan and for the strategic plan, we are forecasting improvement on all areas of the net working capital management.
Okay. With this, we have come to the end of today's webcast. Today's presentation will be available on Gorenje's corporate webpage and also on webpage of Alta. All questions that may have remained unanswered will be passed to the company, and you will hear back from them soon. I hope we will see and hear each other in the future at similar events. Thank you for attending today's webcast, and goodbye.